something that's always baffled me is when you go into low income areas, there's more gambling shops.
Yeah.
And I can attest to it. When I was 18, 19 years old and I'm shoplifting pizzas to feed myself and I'm doing all sorts of stuff. When I got my student loan in, I was in university for one day and they gave me like the first payment of my student loan. And I don't think I've ever said this before. I put the entirety of the payment on a bet. Wow. And I lost it in injury time of that football match. I don't bet.
And did you need that money for tuition? Like it was then gone.
I needed it to eat.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't speaking. I had no money. I didn't come from money. My parents, I'd gone to university with 50 quid and I got this like £1,000 sent to me from student loan, whatever. I was so reckless with money when I didn't have money. Yeah. The minute I got money, it's like everything just chilled the fuck out. And I became really long-term, patient. I made really responsible decisions. I stopped buying flashy things. I don't even own a TV now.
I'm very similar. I feel like the more money I have, the less my material desires are. For sure. When I say that out loud, I'm like, oh, absolutely.
Why is that when we have less, we are reckless with our money?
Well, I think there's two sides to this. One of my theories is that what everyone wants in the world is respect and admiration from other people. And there's kind of two ways to get that. You can get your respect and admiration through your wisdom, through your love, through your humor. Or if you don't have that to offer to the world, you're going to get it through your material possessions. So if you can gain respect and admiration through your business success, your wisdom, your love, your friendship, great, then you're going to get it and you're going to fulfill that bucket. If you can't get it from those things, then you're like, well, might as well show off my car. It's all I got to do. That's all I have. I think that's one side of it. So as you become more successful, your desire to show off diminishes because you're gaining respect and admiration through other things that are not material. The other side of this that's so important is that, I saw this statistic years ago that the poorest 10% of Americans buy like 80% of the lottery tickets in America. And these are people who can barely feed themselves. The lowest 10%, they're literally struggling to put a roof over their head and feed themselves, are going out hand over fist buying scratcher tickets. And the knee-jerk reaction when you hear that is, morons? What are you doing, you idiot? And maybe that is the right reaction, but I started thinking about it and it was like, okay, maybe if you try to put yourself in those people's shoes, maybe they would say something like this. If you are stuck in a low-income job and you feel like there's no way out, you feel like you don't have the opportunity to work your way up the ladder, become an entrepreneur, you feel like you're stuck in this position, buying a lottery ticket might be the only thing in life that gives you a little bit of hope. It might be what feels like literally your only ticket to get out. And that might be not something that you and I feel like because we at least feel like we might have other opportunities.
You're so right, because when I gambled, what I then did the same day before the result of my bet or my lottery ticket came in, and I said this to my team the other day, is I would go on Rightmove and like Auto Trader and look at stuff that I would buy if I won.
Yeah. I think there's a sense too that if you are stuck in a lower spot in life, if you have a feeling that the world is unfair, and very often it is, so maybe that might be the right mindset. But if you feel the world is unfair, then it's very natural to think, I might as well cheat too. If the world's unfair, why not? Might as well cheat. And I think that, at least at some level, has some explanation for the relationship between poverty and crime.
That word hope is so true.
I think it's true too.
It gives you just a glimpse of hope because it gives you, even if it's a 0.00001% chance.
If it's the only thing in your day that made you smile a little bit, made you feel like you had a little bit of hope, then I get why they do it.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think a lot about here is that if you are in a low income job and you're working graveyard shifts and you're exhausted and you're taking 3 buses to get your kids to school, if the only thing that day that gives you a little bit of pleasure is a cigarette and some alcohol, I get it. I totally get it. And that's also the relationship between health and poverty is a lot of that too. So it's very easy for people who are of higher means to look down at those people and point out all the bad decisions that they're doing in life. But I think you underestimate how much the desire to just have a little bit of hope, a little bit of pleasure. And if those feel like your only avenues for hope and pleasure, maybe that's the explanation for at least part of it.
Speak then to 18-year-old Steve that was in that little room with the stack of these, what they call county court judgments and bailiffs and stuff, stack of letters on his desk. What advice, based on all you know about money and finance, can you give to somebody who is maybe, making $1,000, $1,000, $2,000 a month, covers their rent just about, doesn't have a lot of money left over? What is the best way to go from that position to a position of wealth, in your view?
I think one of the best ways to think about it at the lower levels and I explained a little bit of this earlier, but to dig into it is a lot of what's probably giving you stress in life is that you don't have control over what you're doing. And if you view every dollar of savings that you have as a bit of your future that you own and control, then I think that mindset can shift pretty dramatically. And it's like, that's the ticket out. The ticket out is not a nicer car. It's not a bigger house. It's not better clothes. The ticket out is independence. That's what's going to give you the better career. It's what's going to make you happier. It's what's going to make you healthier. And the only thing that's going to give you independence is having enough money saved up so that you can choose where you want to live, maybe even what job you want. You can choose at some point down the road when you retire. If you get sick, it's not just going to break you immediately. Having that independence is going to take more weight off your shoulders than anything else you can do in life.
Save money.
That's it. That's the title of that chapter in the book is Save Money, because you can't put it any clearer or starker. Like that's it.
He says there are 3 types of people: those who save, those who don't think they can save, and those who don't think they need to save.
Yep.
3 types of people. Which one are you? Those who save, those who don't think they can save, and those who don't think they need to save. I tell you what, I've been all 3 in my life.
That's interesting. I've always been a saver.
No, I haven't.
And see that, I think that's actually very rare that you change who you are.
Really?
On the nature-nurture spectrum, I actually think, and this is kind of disappointing to talk about, it's not fun to talk about, but on the nature-nurture spectrum, I think a lot of money is nature. Warren Buffett talks about the people who have the money mind, which means like either they get it or they don't. And if they get it instantly. And if they don't, they'll get it never at all. I actually don't believe in it. It's that black and white. Charlie Munger explains it like that. He says, when explaining financial matters to young people, they either get it instantly or never at all. And he's putting that too starkly, I think. I don't think it's that black and white. But on the nature-nurture spectrum, is it 80-20? Is it 70-30? I think it's probably something in that range.
Knowing when enough is enough. This was one of the most interesting things that I think really rang true to me was, how do I know in my life when enough is enough? I've definitely been a victim to that external narrative that I need to have these things in my life to be a happy person. But how does one go about knowing when enough is enough?
I think back to the story of my father. He just woke up one day and it was obvious that he had been doing what he did for long enough, and he had felt like he had enough and whatnot, and he broke away from it. I think for a lot of people, it's just, one thing that's important about the concept of having enough and independence is that when most people, even if they are independent, they wake up every morning, what they want to do is go to work. One of the big problems with the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early movement, where people are like, they're going to be a super saver and then retire at age 31, whatever it be. So many of those people who actually did that and retired at age 31, once they retired, after about 2 weeks, they were bored out of their mind. And if they did it for 6 months, they were clinically depressed. Because for most people, you want to be productive. You want to keep doing it. So having enough doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to stop working. It just means you're going to keep doing only the work that you want to do. There's a really interesting question that Patrick O'Shaughnessy asks a lot of people in his office. He says, if you won $1 billion in the lottery, but you had to stay at this job, you're a billionaire, but you can't quit. What at this company would you want to do? And what would you get rid of? And virtually everyone has an answer for that question. They say, oh, if I didn't need the money, but I have to stay, I would love to work on this project. I love working on this thing. This, that, and the other is all bullshit to me. So like in any job, there's going to be something that you want to do. There's going to be some project, there's going to be some position, or maybe it's like being an artist, whatever it would be. It's not that you stop working. It's that when you have enough, you get to pick and choose which of those things you're going to end up doing.
It's often too late in our lives when we realize the cost that we've paid for enough never being enough. You know, it could be family, it could be health, whatever. I always reflect on with Bronnie Ware, wasn't it, who interviewed people on their deathbeds and found out that the biggest regret of the dying was not living a life true to themselves, working too much, etc. But that's on your deathbed. There's nothing you can do at that point.
Right.
And I think a lot about this, like, what am I going to regret?
Yes, I think about that too. I think this is pretty morbid to think about, but I think about if I were on my deathbed tomorrow, would I regret working hard and saving a lot of money? And my answer is absolutely not. It would give me so much pleasure to know that my wife and my 2 young kids are going to be fine. And the opposite of that, I cannot fathom being on my deathbed and looking at my wife and my 8-year-old son and my 4-year-old daughter and thinking, you guys are screwed. That would be the biggest regret I can fathom. So I think a lot of people would look at someone with a high savings rate like me and would assume that I'm going to regret it on my deathbed. And who knows? But I have to think it would actually be the opposite. What gives me so much happiness and pleasure is taking care of my family. And if I were to go tomorrow, I wouldn't regret for 1 second the car that I didn't buy, the big house I didn't buy, the nice clothes I didn't buy. Not for a second would I regret not doing those.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.